building was actually built by Dale Melby, the husband of Margie.
Oh, was that?
And Margie's my first cousin. So my first cousin by marriage built our office building.
Right, yeah.
He was kind of an entrepreneur too.
Right, yeah.
That's the well. Another thing I think I'd impress upon you is that your grandfather, my dad, did not have any great credentials as far as academics. I imagine he did graduate from high school, but that's barely. And he had no ambition, never thought of going to college. He went right out and worked.
Right.
But I'd say this: he had all sorts of sort of interest in reading about stuff. And I told you this story before, but I'll tell you again that. I mean, I remember driving along. I would ask questions, and he would give me answers. And it was, my question was always, how come? How come this happened?
Yeah, how come this?
And he was good at giving us. At one time, he said, "No more how comes. If one more how come, and well, I'm stopping the car, and you'll have to walk home."
Okay.
He really
sounds familiar. Yeah.
He sort of meant it. But I remember one time I said, well, what you got this little stuff. He's telling me how molecules in a little body is all those little things together. And I said, there's atoms, and I said, what's the smallest thing? Well, it's the atom, and they're little tiny things, and they have things, electrical things circling around it. And he said, by the way, there's tremendous energy inside there. Someday they'll break open atoms, and there'll be power inside. Oh, great, that's wonderful. About 2-3 weeks later, I'm with my mother at the Radisson. Radisson had a hotel right downtown on 7th and Nickel in those days. And I was with my mother. We always went downtown and waited there for my father to come home from work and pick us up, and we'd go out to eat.
I think my mother, Hazel brought me there as a kid.
She would love to. She loved Dayton's. It was her. And so she would wander around, and we went up to the Sky Room in Dayton's. And I went to all sorts. I went to Charlie's with my mother, and I was a sort of a bon vivant or raconteur or something when I was about 8 years old.
Okay,
but we were at the Radisson Hotel, and they, like in the old days, a lot of times the hotel would have a table and put a whole bunch of newspapers on it, so that the guys who were waiting around for whatever reason in the lobby had something to do.
Right.
So I went up and looked at the paper, and I must have been, the war was, it was about 45, and so I must have been just barely 10 years old, or slightly, maybe 9. And one of the headlines was, not the headline, but in a little article down below, atomic device detonated over Japan. It didn't say atomic bomb, it said atomic device. That was the thing. I thought, what in the hell is that? And I got back home and I told my dad about it. I said, oh yeah, they've made an atom bomb. But he talked to me several weeks ago about the power. And so he didn't say it would be an atom bomb.
Right?
Yeah, weird, isn't it? So it's like you talking about some, Elisa, not Elisa, but some young kid talking about cell transplants or something.
Right, about gene transfer or whatever.
But so he really liked. It wasn't because he was academic; he was just curious. And he was kind of, so that's a very curious.
Yeah, he's naturally curious.
Yeah. So I think you all remind me of him.
Yeah, that's It's interesting. Mom's grandfather was also known for being very curious, and a lot of the ladies were like, "Oh, he's always thinking about stuff that he's unuseful stuff." Right. Instead of painting the barn, he's thinking about atoms.
Yeah, that's how. But the other thing is, he was willing to get in and get his hands dirty.
Yeah.
And I remember when he was strange. When he had the tire business, in those days you could hardly afford to buy a truck. I mean, it was right during the war, and you couldn't get anything. So he had a truck, and he had a trailer hitch on it, and he actually built himself a trailer. And he built a unique thing. He had two. I think it was 2 hitches, and it went back to this thing about the size of the bed,
Mhm.
but he had just one wheel under it. It was a one-wheel trailer.
Oh, wow.
And
He figured that out.
he did it on his own.
Oh.
And he found out it was much more convenient for him to have a one-wheel trailer that was kind of fixed.
Right.
And the wheel would turn, and he could, if he wanted to back it up,
Mhm.
he just turn on and back it because it was solid. I mean, it just went
Right.
straight back.
Okay.
It didn't go flippy.
Right.
So in a way, he didn't invent that concept, but he followed up on a
Right,
concept.
so it didn't pivot at
No,
the
not,
trailer hitch.
which is usually a hell of a problem when you had to
Yeah.
park someplace, you know,
Yeah,
how am
yeah.
I gonna get it? So in effect, he made the truck, you know,
Longer.
longer truck trailer, and if you were driving on this way, it's just holding the wheel, but when you turned around, it backed up this way, you know?
Right.
So those kind of weird little inventions and,
Yeah.
and
Well, I remember